Hello queens, angels, and goddesses. Shout out to Mellow Mushroom and Okpa. Go subscribe to them. The links to their channels in the description. If you don't like my channel, then why are you on it? A strong wind was blowing outside, and although he knew it looked cooler than it actually was, Kageyama shivered at the mere thought of leaving the house. It was almost winter, or rather, that was what it felt like to him. Actually, it was the last day of October, so he really shouldn't be surprised that it was kind of cold, especially during the nights. However, somehow last year's autumn had felt like an extended late summer to him, or at least that was how he remembered it. Right now, he was at a Halloween party, and the only thing he regretted more than actually showing up was that he had befriended the hosts well enough to actually be invited. They had even become close enough over the course of the last year that it would have been rude to decline, which was a miracle in and of itself. Once again, he thought about how different his life had been before he had moved to Tokyo for university, how much had happened since then, and how he'd never imagined himself to be where he was right now. Honestly. Because right now, he was not only at a Halloween party, he was also hiding in a room he wasn't supposed to be in, because everything was simply too much for him. There were just too many people, and they were too drunk and too loud, and in general, too much of everything Kageyama couldn't stand. Not that he was judging them, no, they should have their fun and he didn't mind at all, but he simply didn't want to be part of it. But he couldn't do that. Distancing himself a little from all the hustle and bustle had been a good idea. The music was still terrible, but now that it was muffled by the room's door it was bearable, as well as all the chatter and laughter that had basically become one distant background noise to him. Kageyama had turned on the one chain of lights that was attached to the ceiling and enjoyed looking around the room in the dim light. Between posters of different volleyball players and teams, pictures from high school days, and some anime heroes, there was one thing that easily caught his attention. Not only because it was the only framed image, but also because it was entirely different from the rest of what was decorating the walls. It was a celestial map, showing different constellations and their names, and exactly the kind of thing Kageyama could spend a long time looking at without getting tired of it. Yay, for shame you couldn't indulge, you prick. The universe had always been fascinating to him. He didn't feel the need to explore it in its entirety, he was more the practical type of person and stuck to what was within reach, but it was something that made him stop and wonder from time to time. And he would have continued studying the stars on the map if it weren't for the fact that he had to see his own miserable reflection. Hinata had done his makeup, although he himself didn't actually dare to give it that name. Kageyama knew that he was supposed to be a vampire, but he really didn't feel like one, and neither like he was at a college party, it was more like a children's birthday to him. And even there he probably would have been the one with the worst costume. I can just. However, he snapped out of his thoughts, when the door to the room was opened, and turned around in surprise since he felt caught. Oh, you definitely look like you haven't had enough of this terribly disgusting punch yet. Tendou said as he entered the room. What did he just agree to? He shut the door behind him again, walked over to Kageyama and tried to hand him a cup filled with a deep red liquid. It would make his friend light it up the way he was now as he stuck a second straw into Tetsura's Slurpee. I don't want to drink it, Kageyama replied truthfully after having taken a brief look at it. Tendou giggled at that, and how he did totally gave away that he himself had probably already had a little too much of this terribly disgusting punch. Tobio-kun, he said, suddenly slinging one arm around his shoulders, why did you come to this party? That's fine. Because I've been invited, Kageyama responded dryly, which caused the other to snicker even more. No, he said a little too loud to Kageyama's liking, but he didn't really take offense at it. That's the wrong answer. Tobio-kun, did you come here to have fun? Tetsura is taken back to them ordering at the stand earlier. I guess. Kageyama replied questioningly, that's what parties are supposed to be like, fun, I mean, aren't they? Nothing bad with swapping a little spit. Aren't you having fun? Tendou continued to ask and gave him a weird look. Kageyama insecurely shrugged his shoulders, whereupon the other nearly shoved the cup with the alcohol into his face. No, you don't. That's why you need to drink this. Tendou exclaimed, almost triumphant, as if he'd just won a huge argument. All the straw did was bend and squish under the pressure of his mouth as Slowly and gently, Kageyama took the cup from him but immediately put it down on the desk next to them instead of drinking it. You didn't exactly make it tempting for me by describing it as terribly disgusting, you know? Oh, come on. At least try it, okay? Don't be like all the others and at least take one sip. Tendou begged and tried to convince him by making puppy eyes. He teased, eyebrows wagging with mirth. For a moment, Kageyama considered pretending to try it, because by now, he estimated the other to be drunk enough to not notice that he was faking it. However, he decided against it and simply tried to distract him with another question. So, have you been running around with 2 cups this entire time and asked people to try this, but nobody wanted to? Tendou nodded and looked at Kageyama wide-eyed, apparently still sober enough to notice that there was more to that question. You do know that this makes you look like you're desperately trying to pick somebody up, right? If I became a straw? What? Tendou responded, opening his eyes even wider, at least as far as that was possible. No. You totally got the wrong impression. That's not what I was trying. I know, Kageyama interrupted him, a little amused by how the others' reactions were even more ebullient than usually, but what else were you trying to do then? It was loud, demanding, commanding. Oh. Tendou responded as if he had already totally forgotten about it again until just now. Actually, this isn't the punch. That's just juice and I wanted to see how many people would realize that there's no alcohol in it. His best friend wiping the belly there, tears on his eyes. Kageyama had to avert his gaze because he felt like he was bursting out into laughter at any moment, but Tendou just moved to his other side and looked at him directly once again. This is absolutely ridiculous, Kageyama eventually said and totally failed at hiding his amusement. Yeah, right. Tendou replied, still pretty excited, and Kageyama gave him a warm smile. Ridiculous but fun. That's why you should really stop hiding in my room and drink something. You know that it makes you more sociable. Can't I just leave instead of forcing myself to have fun? Kageyama asked, suddenly serious again, looking away once more. He had to know. The smirk on Tendou's face vanished and he immediately became serious as well. Want to get out of here then? Like, that's not even fair. He didn't even wait for an answer but walked over to the balcony door and handed Kageyama a blanket while he himself took 2 pillows and put his muffler loosely around his neck. When he opened the door and stepped outside onto the fire exit stairs, fresh air was immediately streaming into the room. Isn't a bit cold outside? Kageyama asked as he shivered a little, but Tendou didn't respond, so he just followed him up to the top of the staircase. Tetsurao gave his signature Cheshire grin. He had already been here for what felt like 1,000 times, and yet, every time he sat down on the worn-out pillows, and let his gaze wander over Tokyo's skyline, he was amazed as if he was seeing this view for the first time. So he gave that one. I'm sorry, that I killed your fun and, that I'm not all that exciting, Kageyama mumbled as Tendou covered both of them with the blanket and embraced him. Though if Tetsurao's siren was that of he didn't get a reply at first, but then he felt how Tendou put his muffler around his neck as well and snuggled even closer, so Kageyama decided to lean his head against his shoulder and relax. As long as you're being social with me, I'm okay with it, Tendou eventually whispered, and you know that I'm the happiest when I'm with you. I'd treat you so fucking good, bro. Relieved, Kageyama closed his eyes and simply enjoyed the sensation of long and slender fingers slowly running through his hair. There was a certain familiarity to those fingertips gently touching his skin and at the same time almost setting him on fire. He felt his heart swell until it was about to explode, making him feel warm deep inside, forgetting that he had been freezing just a minute ago. Would you recycle me? And when their lips met, Kageyama thought that as long as he had Tendou Satori in his life, it would never really be winter for him, and even the end of October could still feel like late summer bliss. Warning: this fanfiction does not belong to me, neither does the fan art. Credits to the original artist and author to the fan art and the fanfiction. Haikyuu does not belong to me either. Well, by children smiling face with hearts.